So the Oscars were this past Sunday. We have 10 nominees for Best Pictures, just like we always do. I actually did the Oscar Marathon this year, so this was the first year in a while that I finally watched all 10 Oscar nominees for Best Picture. Here's my ranking of all 10. So before I dive into my list, please go down in the comment section and tell me what is your ranking of the 10 Best Picture nominees, or if you haven't seen all of them, what is just your ranking of any of the Best Picture nominees that you have seen. Now, it's kind of a lie when I say I've watched all 10 of these, because there's one I've only seen 20 minutes of, and that is my number 10, so we will say that in just a minute. Also, in case you're wondering, new background, new everything. Got a new camera. It's a Logitech 930, I believe, and then I also got a new mic, so I'm going to bring it close real quick so you guys can see it. I also got a new mic, so hi. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into my list of the 10 Best Picture nominees. Number 10, Emilia Perez. I actually only saw 20 minutes of the film, and giving it 20 minutes is generous. This film was awful. In my pros section, there's nothing good about Emilia Perez whatsoever. The film's horrible. From the very beginning, we start off with a song, and you just have no idea what's going on. I have no idea anything about the movie or what's going on. It's just like kind of throws you in the middle here, like someone killed someone or whatever, and then you just start singing and dancing, and then you get into the actual plot of the thing, where the main conflict for a central character is that, and hear me out, she's a woman, she's a black woman, and she's got a big butt. That was the whole conflict for our central character in Zoe Saldana. Now, they did win Best Original Song, and Zoe Saldana did win the Best Supporting Actress role and the Oscars. I don't know what to think about, because the first 20 minutes of Zoe Saldana wasn't all that great. I like Zoe Saldana, but it really wasn't all that great. And the songs, like I said, were just really confusing. The themes just aren't for me. Like, as soon as we get to the part where she gets in the truck with the guy who's wanting to become trans, and then he goes like, hey, you need to find me a trans doctor. That's when I checked out. I'm like, you know what? I turned to my brother, who already checked out of the movie. He's already on his phone. I said, you want to watch something else? So we watched A Real Pain instead for another video that's coming out later this week, which is ranking every movie that won an Oscar this year. But I just completely checked out because the themes are not for me. I mean, like I said, woman, black, fat butt. It's just like explores those themes that she's like can't do what she wants because she has all that. And I saw the direction it was going, but then every time it just kept adding on something, a different direction that just doesn't quite make sense. And then some guy on Twitter, he didn't message me, but he commented and told me what the rest of the movie was, which I'm completely fine with because I never plan on watching it. But he said, and there's spoilers here if you want to watch Emilia Perez. If you haven't, I don't recommend it because I just couldn't get through the first 20 minutes. But he said that Zoe Saldana dies in the end, and they throw a parade in her honor. That's pretty much exactly where I knew where it was going. It sounds awful. I couldn't get more than 20 minutes into it. Literally everything in this movie didn't even look good. The camera work didn't look good. Just the movie just had this gritty vibe to it, and I really couldn't get into it besides the first 20 minutes. So I turned it off and watched Real Pain, which proved to be one of the best decisions of my life. Number 9, and a pretty huge jump up, we got Nickel Boys. Now, this was a movie that I was not looking forward to. The whole marathon, it was the movie I was looking the least forward to watching. It just didn't look like it'd be for me with the themes of stuff it was going to explore. And I'd say it was a good movie, but not necessarily for me. Talking about the pros I have here, the themes here, like I said, didn't think they were going to be for me, and I thought they really did work. You have the Nickel Academy and all the boys that get there, yet follow our main character who was doing something good with his life and is unjustly put here. And the whole movie, you're like, ugh, I don't want him to be here. I don't want him to be here. I hate this. And you are put in the footsteps of the character because it's a movie set back when racism was very prominent, and it's very much towards that. I didn't think that's what the movie was going to be about at all, and it was. And I thought the themes there and that kind of aspect really did work here. It's also very emotional. You get scenes where you literally see people, black boys, literally getting whipped. And it is hard to watch. Obviously, I'm not black. I'm white. But it's still, like, very hard. And I felt it. I felt these characters. I love these characters, and it was so hard to watch. It's also a story that sticks in your head. When the movie was over, I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of it, but the story definitely did stick in my head. And that's to say that this is the movie I've been thinking about the most. Like, this is a movie that had the most brutal parts that were the hardest to watch in the theater. It could be emotional. The characters are likable. It is just so very intense. The camera work is also really good. I really like the camera work. It's kind of like the first-person view, and often it switched back in between different characters, so like you're following other characters through first-person view as well. Thought it was very neat. From the very beginning of the film, for like the first 20 to 30 minutes, I just wasn't invested whatsoever, and that was the part that really got me. Like, the best part from the first 20 to 30 minutes was the camera work. I thought it was really, really good. The movie's also not entertaining. Like I said, it has all these themes, all these rich themes that, for me, who cannot relate to what these characters have gone through, can feel sympathy for them, and it's just such a hard watch. But the movie 110% drags on. Like, there are like 3 or 4 different sequences where our 2 main boys are sitting there talking to each other, saying, "There's only 4 ways you can escape Nickel Academy." Like, 3 or 4 scenes where they did that. Drags on. It's not an entertaining movie. It's brutal to watch. I would probably never watch it again because it definitely dragged on. My brother did not like this one whatsoever. And while I thought there were positives here, for being an entertaining movie, I feel like it was one of the weaker ones on this list. Has to be 9. But like I said, this is the Best Picture nominees. I mean, all of these movies are great. But this is the one that I just had the least amount of fun with. Besides Amelia Perez, obviously. Number 8, we got Anora, our Best Picture winner, and I know this is such a huge hot take, putting Anora at number 8. I really liked Anora until I didn't like Anora. A little bit frustrating there. Starting with the positives, the cast here is great. Mickey Madison 100% deserved her Best Actress award. And while I thought that it was going to go to Demi Moore, I'm completely happy that Mickey Madison won it, because I thought she was great in the movie. She's just able to be funny, charming. Every single one of the cast members bounce off each other when the movie's starting to go weaker than the beginning of the movie. The stuff that held it together was the cast interactions. That was the really great stuff here. And with that said, the movie can also be quite funny. Every cast member has great chemistry with each other, so obviously it can be really, really funny when they're with each other. The movie can also be really intense. There's a couple really intense sequences here that I thought were really interesting. Had me on the edge of my seat. The house scene had all of that. The funniness, the intensity, and it merged really, really well. The house scene for about 30 minutes in the middle of the film, I thought worked really, really well. The directing by Sean Baker, another thing I was a pretty big fan of. I felt that it had this distinct vibe, the camera work, all that was interesting and just kind of added to the movie, and I thought really worked within there. Sean Baker definitely also deserved to bring home Best Actor. Did the movie deserve to bring home Best Picture? No. Because the movie, number 1, definitely drags on. Like I said, the more the movie goes, the less entertaining it gets. So after, like, the house scene, we get about a 45-minute stretch where characters go to this place. Characters go to the store. Characters go to the restaurant, whatever. They walk around, show them the phone. Hey, have you seen this man? Have you seen this man? 45 minutes. And all that was still entertaining because you still got the cast bouncing off of each other. The movie can still be funny. But it's literally just kind of like rinse, wash, repeat over and over again. And then, like, you get past that, and then it's just kind of like, okay, when's the movie wrapping up? It should wrap up here, but it feels like we still have about 20 minutes left. And then when the movie finally does wrap up, the final 10 minutes put such a sour taste in my mouth. I did not enjoy these final 10 minutes. And that's where the movie was this low. I'd say before that, the movie would be, like, above my number 7, under my number 6, it'd be number 7 on this list. But, final 10 minutes just didn't work. Light spoilers again. So, she has a scene with Yorgos or Igor, and Yorgos is the guy who plays him, with Igor, and he says stuff like, they're having a conversation, and she says, "You have rape eyes." Talking about how she thinks he would have raped her. Okay, that's fine. Then they get to the car. The very next scene, he hands her the wedding ring that the other guy got for him, and she has sex with him. What? Where did we go from thinking he was going to rape you to just instantly consenting to having sex? Really weird. Really weird stuff. And it just, like, left such a sour taste in my mouth. The movie ended. I looked at my brother. I was like, okay, I don't know how I feel about this. This is the movie on this list that is the most polarizing to me. My brother liked the movie, I think, but he also, like, cannot believe it won Best Picture. He's going off on Twitter right now, and it is quite funny. But, I mean, I don't think it deserves Best Picture. I definitely don't think it was by far the best one on this list. It is near the lower end of the list, but when the movie's good, the movie can be really good. Number 7, Wicked. Now, I've actually seen this film twice. It's one of two that I've seen, actually one of three that I have seen twice on this list. This movie really specifically works because of Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande's chemistry. Both of them are absolutely fantastic in the film. They can handle their own with the musical sequences, but they also have fantastic chemistry with each other. Ariana Grande brings most of the comedy to the screen. Most of the lines she says are really funny, and so really good chemistry, and they are really what helped this film really work. The visuals are really good. I know a lot of people complain about the visuals. That's one of the big things that a lot of people don't like in the movie. But for me, I thought the visuals looked good. I literally posted on Twitter, as the movie started, I'm like, how do people hate on the visuals of this movie? I think it looked good. And while I feel like it should have won production design or costume, I feel like it should have won other awards, just because other people complain about that. I personally think it looks good. The songs are also really good in here. It's directed by John M. Chu, who I think is absolutely great director. He directed one of my favorite musicals of all time, which was the In the Heights movie from 2021. Really liked that movie. And his direction here, I thought, really worked as well. And he's able to bring all these musical sequences, people dancing in the background, fantastic chemistry. All that really, really works in the movie. The movie definitely does drag on. It has sequences that feel like it should have ended way before they do. They keep going on and on and on and on and on. And the specific aspect of that is the defying gravity, because I get that's a huge part of the musical. Back when I saw it the first time, I had this complaint. And back when I rewatched the film, I also had this complaint, where it's literally getting to one point that should take 7 minutes to, and it takes about 20 minutes to get to this certain point, because you're playing Defying Gravity and you're doing all this, and it definitely loses my interest during Defying Gravity. Now, I know all the Wicked fans, all the big Wicked freaks are gonna be mad at me for saying that, but I never watched the musical. This was my introduction to it, but that's just my personal opinion. Still think the movie's good, though. Number 6, The Brutalist. This was a movie that is at the top of a lot of your guys' list, and again proves that this list is full of hot takes. This was a movie that was held together by a fantastic cast. Adrian Brody, who won Best Actor, is in here, and he is absolutely insanely good in this movie. He just plays such a character that you can root for as he's slowly going insane, kind of crazy, and you really like him. And he has specific sequences with Felicity Jones, who plays his wife, that are also phenomenal in the movie. Felicity Jones was really, really good in here, and again, one of the big leads, or one of the big stars for me in the movie. But I think the guy who carries this movie specifically is Guy Pearce. I think Guy Pearce is insane. I was not liking the movie until Guy Pearce came on screen for the first time, and then when Guy Pearce comes here, he just has such a screen presence that definitely gets me invested, and I definitely really did enjoy Guy Pearce's character. The cinematography is great. I think it did win Best Cinematography, so it looks great. You start off with the scene where you see the Statue of Liberty. It's upside down on the camera. Just such a phenomenal shot inside the movie. You got the shot where he's smoking the cigarette, sparks are flying. Such a great shot. When I was watching the movie, a lot of sequences, the big thing that didn't come to mind was cinematography. The more I see from little clips, like, oh wow, it looks great. Score, also really good. It brings this big intensity to the movie. Thought it was really good. And the final 30 minutes, I think, are the best part of this movie, where, like, you get the thing where Guy Pearce raped Adrian Brody, and so you get the payback out of that. The final sequence in the house when his wife is going up to them and, like, revealing that. It's so intense, and the final 30 minutes are really intense and really worked and really cemented this one as, this was actually a really, really good movie. It's not what I expected to be, and that's why it's this low. I've heard people saying it's a big sweeping story, and I just didn't really feel that. I didn't really feel the big sweeping story. Now, I felt the story worked. It did work, but I didn't feel like it was massive or big or sweeping. I just felt like it was a good story. I liked the story. I didn't feel what you guys felt. It's also way too long. 3.5 hours is kind of crazy. Just like my brother said, there's definitely sequences you could have cut out of the movie that would have trimmed it down. But I do have to say, hour and 40-minute part 1 and part 2 were great. I mean, that was something that really worked. If I ever want to rewatch a film, I'll watch it part 1 one day, part 2 the next day. That's how I'll watch it. But I did think the film was really too long. Definitely parts you could cut out. Besides that, I did think this movie was really good. I really did like this one. Number 5, Conclave. And this is the part where we get to where I think these movies are all great. This is an A-. Brutalist, I'd say, I'd give Brutalist a B+. Conclave is an A-. My top 5 are all really good. It is an intriguing political thriller inside of the church. And that is something I really like. As a Christian myself, I'm not the biggest fan of Christian movies. I didn't know how I would take this one, and it just managed to be intriguing, but it never offends me as a Christian. I thought the story really, really worked, proving that people will do anything for power, even inside the church, and it just has such an interesting contrast inside the movie that I thought it really, really, really worked. Cast here is really great. Big standout, obviously, being Ralph Fiennes. And I don't think that he gives a life-changing performance like a lot of people are saying. I don't even think he could have been nominated for Best Actor. I really don't think that. But I did like him. I thought he was good in the movie, and the rest of the cast is really good. The reveals also really work here. The more reveals we get, the more interested I get in the movie. The movie's also only 2 hours long, where everyone else every other movie on this film, or on this list, rather, is 2 hours, 13 minutes or above. Amelia Perez being the shortest one out of those. This one is the shortest one, and I can feel that, and I thought it really worked, and the runtime really helped me stay invested with all the reveals or anything, because I was never thinking, okay, what's some aspects that we can cut out of the movie? I just thought it flowed really nicely. The score also really worked. I think this one should have deserved to win Best Score. Able to add to the intensity. The score just has this thumping beat throughout, and I thought it really, really worked. The final reveal, I think, didn't really wrap up greatly, because kind of like we get that reveal, kind of feels like we still have some more to go, and then the movie just ends. And while I did like the runtime, I do feel we could have added another 10-15 minutes onto the movie to kind of explain it a little bit more. But besides that, I just had such a great time with Conclave. Number 4, The Substance. Now, when I first saw this movie, I thought it was good. I thought what it did was good. But also, it was never a movie I thought I would rewatch. And then I went to the Best Picture Marathon, and I rewatched The Substance. And it hit me more, because I'm at the point in my life where I'm going to the gym every day. I've genuinely lost 20 to 25 pounds, which is crazy for me, because I've been gaining weight rapidly. I told myself it was enough, and I've been losing weight, which has been awesome. But the movie really connected with me, because I still feel like I'm large. I still feel like I'm not good enough, even though I'm doing all that. And the movie is really able to connect with that, with the unrealistic beauty standards, specifically towards women. But what this movie does is also, like, gives you the intriguing question. If you're not happy with your body, would you take the substance? Me, no, because I can't do needles. I genuinely freak out every time there's a needle present. I couldn't even watch the scenes where people poke each other with needles, which means this movie was a complete nightmare to watch twice, but still, I still really liked it. Just the story really, really worked, and with fantastic performances by Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley that just have such an interesting contrast with each other. Specifically, Demi Moore, I think, had the more emotional aspect to that. I thought she was great in the film, but Margaret Qualley has the sequences where she's going crazy and is absolutely phenomenal in here, and it's an absolute robbery that she didn't get nominated for Best Supporting Actress. An absolute freaking robbery. But I thought both of the cast members were fantastic in the film. The effects were great, and the grossness really, really did work for me. Because I'm a big horror fan, but, like, it's hard to watch all the gross scenes, but still, it's still effective for the vibe and stuff that it was trying to go to. Again, the film's very hard to watch. I went to go get food because I've seen the film before and we were hungry during the marathon, and I walked back in on the shrimp eating scene, which is disgusting, and the rest of the film is very disgusting. It's very hard to eat while watching, and I didn't like it the first time I watched it. I'm really glad I liked it much more on rewatch for it to be number 4, because this was like in the 50s of my 70 plus movies I watched last year, but I really did like it a lot more on rewatch. I thought it really did work. Number 3, I'm Still Here, and hey, it beat out Amelia Perez for international feature. That might have been the most excited me and my brother were all night during the Oscars live stream. Speaking of, if you guys want, we did a 5+ hour live stream on Sunday. If you guys want to go watch that, we had an absolute blast talking about the Oscars and giving our thoughts on each of the Oscars. This movie won, and it definitely should have won. Fernanda Torres is amazing. I 100% think she should have won Best Actress. I knew she wasn't going to get it, but that was my pick if I was the one who would have given it to her. I thought she was phenomenal in the film and just able to bring all this emotion to a very intense and sad film. What the film really works on is that it's about war violence, it's about war, And it's very good, very intense inside the film, where the first, I'd say, hour of the movie is family drama. You don't quite know where it's going, but you feel like some intrigue and intensity building up to it. And then you get to the point where the husband's taken away. And then you get to the point where Fernando Torres is taken away. And you get to the whole part in the jail, and it's so brutal, and it turns from, I'm invested, but I don't know what I think about it, to, holy crap, what's going on in this film? And I thought it was awesome. It was absolutely awesome and emotional, sad. Fernando Torres brings so much emotion to this role. And it is a very hard watch when you hit the middle of the film. Very, very, very hard watch, because it shows what happened in Brazil. And it's very emotional, because these are real people, real things that happened to them. It is very, very hard to watch this movie. I think it had potential to be my number 2 if the final 30 minutes didn't drag on. I feel like the final 30 minutes were a little bit unnecessary, where like we feel like the story's wrapping up, and then like we get 30 more minutes of in the future that just didn't quite work for me. I was kind of got a little uninvested, but it doesn't change the fact that this is a movie I think everyone should watch. It's brutal. It is a fantastic movie. Number 2, A Complete Unknown. A huge, huge hot take here, because a lot of people didn't like this movie. Well, a lot of people did like the movie, but don't think it deserved to be nominated for Best Picture. I highly disagree. I love James Mangold. I love Logan. I love 3:10 to Yuma. I'm not the biggest fan of Ford v Ferrari, let's be completely honest there. But I really do like James Mangold, and I thought he is a fantastic director. He was my pick for Best Director. He just brings so much style to this kind of movie, where it's a movie that could easily lose my interest real quick if you don't make me care about the characters. But because of his direction, and because of Timothée Chalamet, I was really invested in this movie. I was really invested in the characters and all of that. Even the musical sequences that James Mangold directs are absolutely phenomenal. I think they really, really work. Where I literally got chills. I felt like I was at a concert. When he starts playing rock and roll, like just such a phenomenal sequence, and the direction was great by James Mangold. And the cast here is also phenomenal. The big 2 standouts for me, Timothée Chalamet, Edward Norton. Timothée Chalamet, I originally thought should have been nominated for Dune 2. More I think about it, I think he was better in this movie. I mean, he had layers in Dune Part 2, but I genuinely loved Bob Dylan and the way he portrayed him in this movie. I thought it was phenomenal. And even him and Edward Norton, I thought was great, because I didn't know it was Edward Norton. I genuinely didn't. About 2 days later, I looked it up, and like, that's Edward Norton? I told my brother. He goes, that's Edward Norton? And so, very surprised that was Edward Norton inside the movie. And then you just have a great story. It's a story that really invested me about Bob Dylan, and he's changing music. It's just such a cool story, and something that I really, really did like and really got invested in. And I thought this film was really, really good, and I think a lot of you are hating on it, and gosh darn it, it should have won an Oscar. It got robbed by not winning an Oscar. But number 1, Dune Part 2. Ever since I saw the movie when it first came out, I was just in love with Dune Part 2. I thought this film was absolutely phenomenal. The cast here is great. Obviously, you get Timothée Chalamet, has so many layers to this Paul Atreides character. He's in love with Zendaya, who I think is also giving another great performance. And, my God, she should have gotten nominated for Best Actress, or maybe Best Supporting Actress. I don't know what you'd clarify her in Challengers, which is also a movie that's robbed. Thanks a lot, Oscars, for robbing Challengers. Hey, if you guys want a review of Challengers, comment down below. But, Zendaya, phenomenal in here. Rebecca Ferguson, again, brings so much layers. Javier Bardem, I thought was funny and really worked in the film. The action here is phenomenal, as well as the visuals and cinematography. Greg Fraser is a phenomenal visual and cinematographer. So when I saw that first film, I wasn't the biggest fan of the first film because of the action sequences. I don't feel really paid anything off. And the action sequences in this movie really did. Whether you're getting the gladiator fight scene in the black and white planet, which really helps the cinematography, something we haven't seen before, which is just a phenomenal action sequence on that planet, or you get the action sequences at the end where Paul Atreides and him are fighting, Fade Rotha are fighting, and I think it is just a phenomenal action sequence, and I thought it really, really worked, and it was really awesome. And like I said, the cinematography and visuals are great. The film can be emotional. It has these big emotions that it's able to do. The ships, the sand, the world, everything looks believable and it looks awesome and it is so fun to watch. It also has a big sweeping story. It's a follow-up to part 1, which I wasn't the biggest fan of. And this film made that film better while also just expanding on that and giving a satisfying conclusion to that movie that I thought really, really worked. It also sets up part 3 perfectly. I know a lot of people's complaint with the movie was, oh, but we thought it was a finale. Now we gotta wait several more years for part 3. But I thought it set up part 3 perfectly. Where, like, you wrap up the story that we had in part 1. But then you set up another one. You set up another big war. I just cannot wait to watch it. It is a phenomenal movie. I knew it was going to be number 1 as soon as it was a Best Picture nominee. And guess what? It is number 1. Thank you guys for clicking on this video. Comment down below what is your ranking of the Best Picture nominees. And with that said, subscribe.